Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. Hello, everyone. You're listening to a Muslim sci-fi writer and someone who experiences their mind cinematically. I wish a part of me could teach the human species that thinking through images, think like having your inner realms move like a film, gives you way more. It's a way more better organizational system than you in some sense reading letters and receiving information. Honestly, this episode, it's not that I want to say something specific, but it's just that I thought, there's some moments where like there's something important to say, but there's some moments where it's a moment of appreciation. And I was just appreciating my moment, and I was like, all right, let's record an episode. A man and his moment. Simple as that, you know? Okay. I've written, how have you received your life so far? All right. What are my findings? That's something I can share. I can say that I was born in 1991, December 17. I was privileged to be born in an era where, in my childhood, I used to climb trees and also played with the first gaming consoles. And I have continued to exist until 2024. And throughout this lifetime, aside from just living the life like as if something you have to do, there has always been this feeling of like, okay, what is it though? So the fascination to figure out where I am and the accuracy to know where I am suggest, the clarity of my position, right? So in this lifetime, I'm pretty much telling you, like, there's 8 billion of us here, like these human beings. I was born, and then at some point the questions that my brain formulated on reality started not to make sense to myself. Do you understand? That means pretty much you can say that there are dishonest and honest beings, and dishonest beings are a step behind. They're like one level back. Okay? And if you're an honest being, you get to at least see what your original life is. Right? But because humanity is prone to sin, because humanity was designed impatient, as we go through time, we understand better ways of things happening, pretty much. So what I'm telling you is I'm trying to paint for you a picture. I'm trying to tell you one man's, you know, depth of view, okay? And I'm telling you that in this life, like, it's not that I have like a, you know, like a complete photographic memory and I can rewind from the first day of my consciousness till now. It's pretty much, if somebody asked me who am I and I was to explain from the beginning of my life till now, I would explain it in checkpoints where I experienced reality while being real in it. Okay? Being real in life depends on also its levels. For example, we are all physically real. So I consider this level 1, the body. So we all have body. Like if you have a body, you're real, dog. You know, do you know what I mean? So so there is a reality to the body. It's like something. It's as if they've given you this advanced technology called a human life, right? And you are discovering it. You're discovering how it happens, how it moves. It's like, imagine you'd never seen a motorcycle and they put you on a motorcycle and they just put a motorcycle in front of you and you'd have to like get on it, stare it. You'd see like people are sitting beside the motorcycle, spinning its wheel, thinking that's the right thing to do, spinning the wheel with their hand. And then there's someone who's looking at all these people misuse a motorcycle and at first says, yo, the reason we are misusing reality because we have misdefined it. That means the error is from the beginning. They say if they make you ask the wrong question, they don't have to worry about your answers. Dear listeners, I want you all to go and pretty much, I was a nerdy kid in grade like 10. I was like fascinated by like magic, like not like the real, not like magical power and like mages and shit. I meant like card tricks and coin tricks and like vanishing a coin and bringing it out of someone's ear and something like that. Right? And the first thing you realize is that in order to, in some sense, be invisible in reality, you have to see where the direction of people's attention is. And it's not just where their attention is, where they consciously intend to have their attention on. Right? So it's not just about paying attention. You could walk by somewhere and not notice something weird that's going on there. But if you had something to do there, you would instantly notice what was weird. Right? So, in this life, I'm pretty much telling you, questions began to form in my mind that made me question reality. Now, this process of questioning reality, usually we think it's an avalanche of answers, right? People like enjoy an avalanche of answers. Oh my God, this, we figured out this part, this made everything work. But for me, sometimes it's like seeing one little part that doesn't work and then seeing how that little part can make everything not work. And chaos has a beauty too, but it's not in destruction, it is in the geometry of it. You know? So, these questions first were about like, what are people doing that's weird? Then first it was like, what am I doing that's weird? Trying to be normal. Then once you figure out normality, you're like, wait a minute, is normality weird? Is being normal like the weirdest thing in a weird universe? Like guys, this world is strange. Can we all agree? And if it's strange, normality is just the language of the times. Normality is what people agree on, not to kill each other while they're existing together. You understand? Are we like animals that are trying to cage ourselves with language politely, or are we in some sense conscious advanced beings that will in some sense calibrate to advanced organizational systems of the species in accordance to higher administration of the divine will? So anyways, these questions came. I gotta be honest. I mean, I'm believe you might not believe it, but I'm always honest. But when it comes to telling you something that it's important to consider about my upbringing. So in December 17, 1991, in Tehran, Iran, I was born, and I have a twin brother as well. We were both born, right, in Iran. And then at the age 7, we went to Canada and we lived there for some time, came back to Iran for a couple of years, and then went back to Canada and stayed there pretty much. It was back and forth and all that. So I'm a human being that has lived, that has had access to 2 different cultural programs, right? And as in some sense a human being, as a Canadian, like, you don't understand. It's like life is so fascinating that if I choose to pick sides of which is correct, I have to hate myself all the time. Okay? Because that's ignorance. The ignorance is like something is collectively happening. We separate it in fragments, and the fragments conflict with one another, right? Because they have individualism now, they can fight with each other, and in some sense, the whole collective process, in some sense, slows down. So for me, like right now, we're asking the question, what should I do? Or then, what should my species do? But advanced beings, in some sense, advanced souls would in some sense they would have faith in the system beforehand, but they would in some sense be like, I don't know how to tell you. Pretty much it was video game like. I realized I have a body. I realized there's the mind. I had a personality. I had a name. I had access to my mind, my inner realm's ability to visualize, see, remember, all of this, to notice things. But ultimately, I went through a series of conclusions, and in 10 years of it, I documented my transformation, like how things were changing for me and my views. But to tell you how I have planted the flag of meaning in this world right now, I considered the premise that I'm an individual and I need to do individual things, right? And if I'm lucky, like, I'll get to do something collective, and then I die. And then I leave this place, right? So pretty much, it's not too far-fetched of an idea to see ourselves as some sort of energy, some sort of package of energy, and this package of energy has expression on a physical level, on a subjective level, and even on a level that is hidden to it, right? There's a Mysterian angle to humanity, dear viewers. That means if you asked me a year ago, is the meaning of life to know yourself? I'd be like, yeah, man, because when you know yourself, you know everything, right? That was my attitude. But now I realize, no. There is administrative positions, there is ranking systems, there is moderation going on, there is authorities, there are moments that, regardless whether we like it or not, will happen, should happen, and in some sense it's not even in our control. The thing about humanity is it begins to, at first, like, this is what the secular and atheist community, materialist angle is trying to convince us, that it's just you here, buddy. It's just you, and you have free will, and you could do whatever you want. They're not telling you it's an interconnected system, that in some sense before you were born there were forces here. They're not telling you what they don't know. They are telling you what they know, right? Because to tell someone what you don't know, you have to break in front of that person. Everybody has to see that you're like empty. And that's why that was the turnaround, right? Before, there was a part of me when I would give the talks in 2003 that was like, yo, man, is there, like, I was in this freaking like fantasy. I was like, yo, man, is it gonna happen? Am I gonna get a large following, global following? Am I gonna go around the world and giving talks? Am I gonna have like advanced research stations building the advanced civilization? All of this. Right? I had centered my life's outcome around just me, but life does not just belong to me. You see? So it's not about worshiping yourself. That's what I'm trying. That's one thing I think ahead of the herd. Like, I ran ahead of the herd, and I'm like, whoa. Is everybody worshiping themselves because they're freaking out because they think there's emptiness, but they don't understand that? How can there be emptiness if there's something noticing it? Your reality, your life, your meaning, it is not just a relationship of an object with a subject or a character in a story. It is a relationship of an energy with the space of being, where everything is being. You are present in the world where the greatest is present. And in some sense, like if you're a person, I'm a person who I pray now. In some sense, there's moments where I just raise my hands in the air and being like, wow, I could, like, so many unknown variables could destroy me right now. I could suddenly have, like the worst things happen to me. But how am I still here so pleasantly? How is it that I am still existing here? You guys, I didn't tell you, I mentioned it in one of the talks, probably, in some of the talks, but I never told you this. I had a near-death experience when I was very young, okay? And the near-death experience was, my mother and father, like, they had gotten married. Me and my brother, twin brother, were born. We were so young. I think we were barely like we could walk, and like climb closets and stuff like that, but we couldn't, like, I remember it wasn't a point where we could speak. It's one of my earliest memories as a being, what I'm telling you. And pretty much what it was we had this closet, right? And it's like me and my twin brother, these two small kids, like under the age of, I think it was, I don't know. It's such an early memory. I remember my body being small in that memory, right? I remember my size. And so I remember what happens is that I'm walking in this room. My mother comes in the room and she suddenly sees this closet is falling right on me. So imagine you have twins, you're a young mother, you come in the room and you see a closet is falling on your son. And then my mother says that I just walk past the closet, right? And the closet it doesn't fall right when, in some sense, I pass, the closet falls behind me. I just see my mother, I don't even realize it. I just see my mother on the ground panting as if she had like close to a heart attack in that moment, right? And I didn't realize anything. I didn't even know, like if it had happened, I didn't even know what was going on. I didn't even notice something was falling until I heard the bang behind me, right? And so what I'm telling you is that when you wonder why you're still here, your free will, sure, logically you can exit early with the free will, but it doesn't mean it's the right decision. It doesn't mean you know what's going to happen. The future may surprise you to the point where, you might bliss out and tears come if you see what will happen in the future. There's been moments you don't know. Like, I'm a person who in my mind, I travel forward. Sometimes I get glimpses of what's in the future and I just sit down and I just tears. It's like your mind simulating what will happen, not to just you. Me is easy. After 100 years, I don't exist. But when I think about my species, everybody, what the fuck is gonna happen to them? Right? There's something that gives me like this pressure, like, yo man, they're all just relaxing, playing around like, squirrels in a garden, birds in a garden, not realizing that we have an ability that no other life form has, and that is to recognize the superior and to recognize intelligence in our realm, advanced intelligence. For me, I'm trying to build up to how I've planted the flag now. What my view is. Firstly, I don't believe in karma anymore. I don't believe in hard work. I don't even believe in just being like having knowledge and you're gonna get there. I believe that this world has an owner. This existence is a system and it has an admin. And unless you acknowledge or have something that makes you realize the admin is here, right? And you acknowledge it, you will in some sense be living your life as your lower self. And let me explain. I will explain to you the mechanics of it, why I'm saying this. The lower self, there's this saying that they say when man wants to give himself something, it is limited to the imaginable. When God gives something to man, it's unimaginable. He can't fathom how it comes, where it arrives, but it's perfect. But when man does something for himself, it's good enough. It's like, all right, I like it, it's good enough, you know. Right? That means it's imperfect. So you, as a being, have an option of being a thought form, okay? And pretty much, this is how I've simplified it. When you wake up in the morning as a soul, you are being called. You're being pulled towards. That means forces are pulling you, okay? One force is the worldly. The worldly is like, think as if the world is like a lonely. Think as if the planet is lonely. I want you to think of it as if, I mean, this is not the case, but I'm saying imagine if hypothetically the planet was alive, had a personality, and the planet was lonely. And so when you appeared on the planet didn't want to let you go. The world didn't want to let you go. Oh my God, you believe truth has a shape? Let me show you. This is the shape of this era. This is the shape of that era. Come on, man. Just stay in an endlessly looped shape. But what is the value of God? The uncaused. That which is before form can dictate it to us. You see, religion is like equivalent to saying, yo, an ultimate, an advanced intelligent being is here. Acknowledge it, you know? Now, for a decade, okay, guys, I didn't know. I granted, I had an innocence in it, right? But I didn't realize that to think of the future only through my eyes, in some sense, is not correct. You know, it's like you're given sight, but how accurate is your sight? You're given access to reality, but how real is it for you? The lower self is a simulated life, okay? So when you sin, you go towards the simulation. The simulation, in the sense of it's meaningless, like if you thought about a body going into hell, it would be like pain. If you think about a mind going to hell, it would be in some sense loop. It's the loop part that makes the mind suffer, right? So I don't know how to say it, but I'm pretty much telling you, I have experienced two modes of living throughout the day, and the other mode, the one I've come across recently, the outcomes of the outer realms are way more responsive. I'm telling you, try it. When I had advanced, sophisticated, intense, serious, strict expectations on my own future self, little did I realize my self-obsession and self-worship, not self-obsession of now. I'm a pretty relaxed guy now. But the self-obsession of what has to happen for the future generations to survive. I pretty much had put the burden of the future of our species on my own lifetime, because I felt like, okay, somebody's got to figure this shit out, right? Like it has to be done, right? Eventually, if not me, somebody else. But I'm alive now, I can do some stuff before I exit, right? And when I lived as the lower self, constantly trying to be in control, trying to dominate my moment, thinking that's what free will means. Free will means everything I want happens all the time, right? That's the ignorance of it. Do you understand? I am telling you, what if you are more than you? And the you that you're seeing is limiting you. The limiting you is limiting you. They're like, yo, Mr. Within's tearing up language right now. Anyways, guys, I realize I am not the main event. I am not important. You believe it or not, like let me say it in a way that's discreet. Like, if somebody told me, hey man, imagine you were about to vanish, what do you care about? What is the most important thing in this life? I would say, more than the survival of my body, more than the desires of my mind, it is my soul noticing the owner of the world. It's like we're in a house party, we don't know who the host is. Host is everywhere. The host is all-seeing. The host is beyond the house. But the host has cameras everywhere, and the cameras tend to be where our eyes are. This world is not designed to be understood. Let me tell you why. Because it's too big, we can't index the whole existence, cosmos. Second, it's bigger because it has dimensions, where there could be a dimension where the laws of the constants, the constants are completely different. Mathematically, this is proven. Okay, the possibility of parallel realities with completely different constitution. Laws. But for me, it's the question of man-made laws or beyond man. Beyond man. Guys, come on, beyond human. Right? I'm not saying we shouldn't be human. Our role is to be human and play our part, and not to be so spiritual thinking we're some like superpower, like, some powerful entity. It's like, yo man, I was, it's like, sometimes I'm I'm a podcaster and sometimes I'm Vishnu. And it's like, do you know what I mean? Forget all the moderators. I saluted all the moderators. I understand their situation, but I also understand that the souls in this realm, in this sector, are in some sense being tested, not on how much they know their self, not on how much they understood the world, because you're temporary, you're not here all the time. Right? So while you're here, what is important, and I have concluded that it is, I'm so proud of this term, this phraseology I created for it. Intelligent interaction levels. Just filter your day like that, right? And you'll see what's intelligence. Intelligence is not you being assured that the past hasn't changed and you feel comfortable all the time. Intelligence is how the moment can be more than itself if properly, engaged. That burden of building the advanced civilization, I gave it to God. I reached a point, guys, this was in Dubai last year, that I felt I was destroying. I felt my lower self was destroying me. I felt that I was blocked. I felt that I was imprisoned by what I wanted, and I in some sense, what I desired, and in some sense couldn't instantly get. I pretty much realized I hate myself if I'm not walking towards the ideas I have of my future. Okay? And then I realized the accuracy, the fact that I'm thinking I have to be this, that, the fact that I'm in the present and trying to be something exactly in the future, right, in some sense is ignoring all the other variables that are influencing the result, right? So I am telling you that when I truly became religious and Muslim was when my body bowed, because I realized the end is death. The body is scared. The body's scared. I mean, when thoughts of even, death come to person, the body reacts, right? So the body's scared. The body's like, I don't know what to do, man. I'm going to end one day. It's like a candle situation. Fuck, right? And then in some sense, it's like, okay, the body doesn't know what to do. Then we come to the mind. The mind is like, yo, man, I know what to do, but there is infinite viewpoints. There's infinite ways. And at the same time, I have this body and I'm this ability, this energy, and I have to serve. So the mind doesn't know how to serve the world because there's infinite ways. because it has individualized. So you will realize there's a limitation to the body, temporary. There's a limitation to the mind, infinitude. Infinity. So when my body was like, okay, you're not superior, stop acting eternal, the body bowed. Then in some sense the mind, I remember I just let go of my future and I was like, okay, I tried it. I put the effort, right? The result didn't happen. That means I'm not doing something right. That means it's like something's not decreed, right? The authorization hasn't arrived from the system admin. So in some sense, and I realized in some sense that I was pointing people to myself, but the thing that horrified me, I realized you should go directly to the system admin. I'm a member, right? Deities are moderators. Deities and members are inside the simulation. The system admin is original. The energy of the system admin, having a relationship with the system admin, is completely different than the energy of a scared, not knowing what to do with infinity kind of intelligence. So for me, I am a servant. I have a God. And I acknowledge it, and it's real for me, guys. Because after my prayers, what happened? The tears of astonishment I had were my proof that God is real. So for me, I'm acknowledging every day I wake up that it's here. God is here. God is real. There is an divine administrative system. Even maybe in the future, people are going to realize there's a divine surveillance state. Our species hasn't even gotten to it yet. Maybe in like 200 years, we'll be like dabbling with like surveillance states and collectivity on a massive psychological level, right? But it's going to be hilarious the first couple times. The surveillance states are going to be like, I would say that maybe for the next 600, okay, let's say for the next 400 years, the surveillance states that are going to appear are all going to be like, what the fuck? They're going to be WTF surveillance states. That means there's going to be some ridiculous stupidity going on in them, right? But the whole point is empowerment of the advanced human species. For me, I see that leaders of nations go to their armies like they're the commander-in-chief, right? The presidents, right? They go and they give a speech and they motivate their army. They're like, you're all defending your nation, you're all great men and women and fight for our nation. Yet, where is that leader that says you're all human beings? Fight for the greatness of humanity, not just a segmentation of it. We have taken a sphere, drawn colors over it, and are killing each other over which color has to be accurate. It's stupid. That means, do we want to be, like, you got to decide when you wake up tomorrow that, hey, do you want to be in a stupid civilization? Do you want to be in a stupid humanity, in a humanity that could do something better, but it didn't do it, so that's what made it stupid? And the important thing is the power, the energy. So think of it this way. Somebody's like, yo, man, I want to build an advanced civilization right now, right? So that requires a power source if it wants to be done by the free will, right? So the power that administers the events that we find, the reality that even begins to question the event. Faith is realizing you are moving inside a greater movement, or it's equivalent to you swimming in a river, but you're swimming in the direction of the river. And when you stop, you're swimming against the direction of the river. And when you stop, faith takes you where you need to go. So for me, if before in 2023, I would wake up and like lines and lines of like philosophical code, thoughts throughout the day would come. Now all is given to the admin, and I'm like, admin, show me what I need to see, because I see you have created an infinite gallery here. And so when I say, how have you received your life so far, right? That is implying, in some sense, not just how you've journeyed through, but how are you processing all the information you've received so far, And to what conclusion has it come? Because if you act like the administrator of your world, you'll get, in some sense, limited to your inner realms. So isn't it hilarious that, like, what is the difference between someone, let's say, who's schizophrenic or crazy, to someone who is not? Right? The crazy person is like in their own room, they're like inside a box, and they cannot see outside of the box, like, okay, what's going on in the environment, how are others seeing it, who else is here. They're not seeing more than themselves. So you can say selfishness is the biggest cause of mental illness, because you only get to see yourself and you miss out on living with others. You don't understand. There was something off until I realized that there is a system admin here. And in my sincere acknowledgement, you think it's easy to bow? But when I decided to bow, it was a moment where I had nothing else. There was nothing else I could do. Dead end of self-worship. You see, I think deep down everybody is attracted and fascinated by an archetype that can, like, you know what it is? I think everybody needs someone, like we need public servants. The government is going to have like a public servant, and one day out of, like, you know, the year, this public servant's going to come and find you and shake you like the cartoons, right? And like, wake up to reality. And it's not, when I've been speaking in this lecture through level 1 and 2. Level 1, body, objective video game. Level 2, mind, subjective video game. Level 3, it's kinda not what does the soul do. It's more like the soul, what has the soul been doing with its body and mind? And when the soul realizes it doesn't know, yet it still knows how to act, that's when you realize you have a system admin in the room. When you know how to do something, but there is no reference. You know, religion has not decreased my appreciation of life. It has increased it. It has truly made me realize that all the people I hated, and if I hate or enemies, they are the creation of my Lord, of my Creator, of the owner of existence. So in some sense, it becomes difficult. Now, the next question is, all right, so human beings all around the world, they're going to realize there is an intelligence administering reality. How is humanity going to acknowledge this? Well, guess what? Billions of people who are religious and they acknowledge a singular point of truth beyond causality, right? These people already have a framework. But the secular audience and the materialists, they're like, what do we do? Let's say there was a system admin here, what do we do though? So this is where the word system admin, or even the abbreviation of it, sysadmin, which AI was saying once. I did it in this episode, I think 3 days ago or something. And then anyways, my point is, you are inside a system. Secular audiences have no problem playing video games. They have no problem being a character. You are a character here. But instead of a 2D pixelated screen, it's a 3D elemental atomic reality. Yet, there is a system. System means there's ways, there's elements, and there's a relationship these elements have in the system with one another. Okay? So, the conclusion I have so far is that life is a performance to see if you can see more than yourself. Oneness is not seeing more than yourself. That means, this might sound bizarre, but all those spiritual people who think oneness is truth, you're going to come back here. because you nullified the situation rather than looking at it. It's like instead of looking at the problem, you're like, the problem is the answer. Yeah, it's like, the individual is the oneness. You know what I mean? The simulation is the truth, and the people are saying that's enough. It's not. Ask yourself, if you suddenly appeared in someone's house, wouldn't you be curious to like where you are, whose house you're in, who owns that house, how the things in that house are moving in that environment? You would question it. And in this world, by convincing you that you are only in one dimension of being, they have in some sense prevented you from asking the questions that your soul is yearning for. When will 8 billion lions roar? When they realize the one and only source has already roared before we were existing. So pretty much I'm saying, I thought I had to figure out how to build the advanced civilization, but the power that is bringing that about already has it planned. Okay? So for me, God is like divinity is like a management system. And this management system has already, in some sense, the project has already been managed, has been planned. And I'm just appearing to, in some sense, be part of the existential performance of it. And my personal view is that from the uncaused came everything, and to the uncaused would return, everything will return. The uncaused is the original power. It is an authority. And you, dear human being, in your normal life, you have no problem with system admins. You right now are in some sense a system admin of your own life. You in some sense have no problem, in some sense, owning a house, cars, objects, clothing, documents, and all of this, right? But in some sense, and you go and work for a company, and that company has an administrative system, has an organizational chart, hierarchies of performance, and systems, even moderators in that system, right? But when it comes to everything, and even you are being governed by invisible laws set out by policymakers. So you, dear human beings, whether you think you're secular, spiritual, you are in a system and you are being influenced by a lot of invisible stuff you're considering to be real, including the idea of yourself. And when it comes to the owner of reality, it is not a far-fetched idea. It is not a far-fetched idea that there is an owner to this place that has shape, design, and magnificence. There's a might to it. The point is I'm telling you, it's not about like it was an equation and everybody gave the right answer to the equation. It's the acknowledgement of the living intelligence. Go look at the picture of the creation of Adam on the in the Sistine Chapel, drawn by Raphael, I think. It's Angelo or Raphael, one of these. But anyways. And in that picture, you will see that Adam is oblivious, yet the divine is right there. The administration is working fine, right? And so if you go in a company, right? Let's say you become an employee of a company. Guess what? You don't need somebody coming and tell you have faith, man, we'll hope for the best. You have faith automatically because you've entered the system and you're a member in the system. So faith is not something like have faith. It's like realize that the system, there's an intelligence moving it all. So faith means, all right, maybe this intelligence knows how to move it better than I do. Maybe I am limited to, the imaginable imperfection of my lower self-ego, but in some sense, that which administers reality is an unimaginable perfection that comes at a time that's because the God is uncaused. Its perfection is coming from an unconscious consideration of causality. So I'm not trying to humanize God to you. I'm trying to tell you that the attention of all the beings in the world should be beyond the world to a position that is uncaused, that is not formed. If your attention is to formed, you loop in the world. You touch infinity. So you have a form. You get moderated. The only way to not get moderated is directly go to the admin, right? So this means, in some sense, I don't go to the members and like, hey bro, help me with truth. I don't go to the moderators, deities that have a bunch of hands and swords, help me with truth. No. I'm like, who created this system? The system admin, directly. Directly go to the system admin, and you will be fascinated by the life, how the energy of your life and how things happen throughout the day. And I will leave the talk here. Thank you for listening. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. In the name of God, the most benevolent, the most merciful. And God is all forgiving. A clue that maybe at the end the world is forgiven. Everything in it. Who knows? God has an ability to do that which man cannot question. God can share secret knowledge with individuals, and in some sense, do you know what I'm saying, right? And in some sense, it's God's choice. It's the system admin. That means, believe it or not, it took me a while to realize the world has a boss, but its boss is not in the world. The human beings that think they're powerful, or the moderators in higher dimensions who think they're powerful, they're just the board. They're just acting like, they're just management. They're acting like a board of directors, but everything, I mean, a board of directors starts with a multiplicity, but I'm saying it's like owned. The whole thing, it belongs. That means if somebody came in your house and you were sitting there and they didn't believe you exist and they started living in your house, you'd be like, WTF, right? This is my house. It's your inability to see that I exist here, right? I am here. So whose fault is that? Which means in some sense, if you don't believe in God, whose fault is that? And finally, Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise from all beings in everywhere. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. That means the code, if existence was coded, the code knows the coder. The moment his name is called, you're pushing the moment towards the original. Like, people thought that in exorcism, okay, let's say, I don't want to I don't talk about metaphysics like that anymore, but this just relates, right? In for example, exorcism, right? You have like some demon possessing a being, and then some person coming with like a cross or a holy book or with phrases from holy book and trying to get this being out. That's what they think is going on, but that's not what's going on, in my opinion, in my limited opinion. Okay, what's going on is by saying God's name, by going towards God, you are going towards the original world. But when you give into the desires, sins, and even deception of lower noobs, like, the jinn kind is, we can consider it as like noobs, right? If humanity is the members. So there are other classes of beings aside from animals, but in some sense they are in more of a simulated reality. We are closer to the original, right? So I want you to think about it, that truth is not about you getting something. It's a proximity thing between you and the original power of reality. And the closer you get to God, the more peaceful and faith renders the moment simple. You'll see. And this was something where back in the day in 2023, I would in some sense wake up going to war with, in some sense, trying to see what else I haven't seen in reality. But now the faith is in the admin, the one and only. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. All praise due to the Lord of the worlds. And if you believe in religion, there's many worlds. Lord of the worlds, plural. Of all even dimensions, aside from just physical position locations. So, gentlemen, ladies and gentlemen, focus on connecting to the original power. Go to the system admin. Then, and this could be as simple as when you wake up in the day, acknowledging it, or in moments of emergency or harm, or things where there's uncontrollable variables throughout the day, just acknowledge it. Just sincerely, as if you are in some sense, you belong to the original greatest power of being, pretty much, right? So your soul is original. Your body and mind may make you think otherwise, but that thought is, will melt, dissolve, will in some sense, like snow melt basking in the sun, right? And it will dissolve. The idea of you is is the lower self-life. The presence of your truth is the higher self-life. That means the soul doesn't want, the soul, like the body and mind, level 1 and 2, yeah, I want this, desires, joys, all of this, right? But the soul, it's like, okay, it's not playtime anymore. We're not dealing with the simulation. It's about a soul in a location, in some sense, contacting its origin. So it's as if coming to problems, they say for problems, contact the manufacturer, right? Similarly, you're going to realize that God is a higher power, which means as the events happen, a higher authorization bypasses the lower self's moderated power. So go towards God. Do not worship yourself. Do not worship others. Do not worship your world. Pretty much like, don't worship form. Go towards the one and only. You will feel it. God is not an idea. It's a presence, as if you're a peasant in the presence of a king. Like you will feel like that when you pray, right? And I don't want to talk about the fear of God, but that is such a divine. That is one of the most profound spiritual experiences. When you realize your inferiority, and the moment you accept your inferiority, then the big shows itself. But if you try to act big when you're when you're small, the big wonders if you're ready to see it. I have given all to God. To be honest, every day I wake up, I have this feeling that, oh my God, like, I might be not walking in the world anymore after today, right? I might be just like at some point just slowly taking steps away from my body or something, right? Like, or in some sense go towards the admin. They asked Muhammad Ali, this great boxer, they're like, what are you going to do after you retire? And he pretty much gave this answer that I have 21 years to prepare to get ready to meet God. And I think that's what's exciting me, to live my life, to play my role, to care, to perform well. Why? Because I'm going to go meet the one who started it all. How amazing is that? I'm going to go meet like the creator. Right? So like there's an incredible thing of like living through a system that you didn't know, and then knowing the creator of it. Like to me, there's something beautiful about that, right? To me, God is not only the idea of God, but just the presence of the prophets in history was a mercy. It was mercy of the higher power. That means the higher world, the higher power was like, let's give him a break, But of course, it is beyond what I know. I am a member. I'm not even a moderator. There was a time I felt the moderators were trying to make me a moderator, but it doesn't matter. I go directly to God, right? You don't believe it. Like, I was saying it in this other talk of mine that, all superstition has gone. That means I don't do, like, if somebody's like, yo man, go and burn this sage and you'll do something, like, get rid of negative evil spirits. I don't do that. I don't do any of the spiritual stuff anymore. Okay? Right? Because that's subconscious self-worship. Okay? It's still you focused. Right? To me, it's as if like, it's like an employee getting a pay. Like there's employees in the film industry below the line, above the line, and then one person going above the line and completely seeing the dynamics are different. So anyways, thank you for listening. Have a great day, guys. Bismillah. All right.